Hello, my name is Jack Doherty, and I've been beta testing a new charger for Revolectrix. It is called the GT500 and would be positioned in, say, the mid-market of power of chargers. The 500 may be a little bit of indication to you as to the power. It produces 500 watts at when attached to a 24-volt power system, and it'll produce 250 watts of power if connected to a 12-volt DC supply. This charger has got a nice new interface to it compared to the other Revolectrix chargers. It has a navigation wheel that can be used to go from different parts of the menu. It has an escape or backup button that can go backwards through the different menus. The menus and information are provided on a fairly large screen compared to what we have had available before. This charger comes with a USB port that can be used to download the updates as they become available from Revolectrix at no charge. The download software is also free at no charge. It also has the balance inputs are the JST XH variety. This particular one is one of the beta units, and you notice it does have a black base, but the new production ones that will go out to the public will have a red plastic base as opposed to the black one. Let's go off now to the, give me a few moments and we'll go off and I'll do some setup and show you how the charger actually performs and works. All right, returning now, I've just connected a 2,200 milliamp 3-cell LiPo battery to the charger, and I've returned the selection knob back up to the LiPo lithium LiPo setting. I will select that for that particular chemistry. Let's start a charge on this. Let's just start it at, let's say that we've got our going to do a 1C charge, so we would want to put this at a 2.2 amp rating. Select that. The voltage that I want to charge to is 4.2. The cell type is confirmed as a LiPo battery, and we'll go back down to the start, press the enter button. It's checking the battery. It is a 3-cell LiPo and it's ready to be charged. Select that, and the first thing that comes up is the supply status. The supply voltage coming into this charger is now at 12.33 volts. The amperage that's being used currently is 1.26 out of the power supply, with it rising as the current is increasing for the charge. Now, if we move down the screen, move the screen up so we can see down lower, the battery voltage currently is 11.3 volts. The battery amps being charged is 2.2 or 2.18 amps. The wattage being output is 25 watts, and the current capacity into the battery is 19 milliamps. The fuel level currently is at 25%. If we move on down the page, we see that each cell voltage is given. As we move further on down, we see that the cell internal resistance is given for each one of the cells in the pack, and the battery balancing status is given so that the battery stays in complete balance during the entire charge. We can then rotate right back up again to the supply status. The supply is, as you see, 2.43. So it's very intuitive for how to check the information. As you rotate the navigation knob, you go through all the pertinent information for the charge that is at hand. Now, to stop a charge, we press the back button and hold it for 2 seconds, and the charge has now stopped. Once the charge has stopped, we can use the back button to back up to the chemistry window again, and we're ready to select a different chemistry for a different type battery to be charged. If we were to select the LiPo HV mode, we go into a charge and we see that we have an option for the high voltage blends of 4.35 volts or 4.27. These are currently high voltage packs that are being put out by Revolectrix and some of the other manufacturers as well. To get back to select that 4.27, which is the type that I have on hand that I have been testing, and then we back up to the chemistry setting again. Now, if we go back up to the lithium, we can also do a discharge. So if we select discharge, we can now go up the menu and select how many amps we want to discharge at. The GT500 can internally discharge up to 4 amps. However, if you're hooked up to a DC power supply battery, deep cycle batteries, then you can discharge at up to 20 amps in a regenerative mode where all the electricity is going back into your supply batteries. Again, how you can adjust how deep do you want the discharge to go. Maybe you don't want to discharge down as low as 3.3, which would be completely empty. Maybe you would want to charge down to 3.4, 3.5 volts for the discharge and select that voltage. Okay, now if we go back to the start, we can choose start. It's going to check the battery. And the LiPo is ready. We select that. The charge starts and begins to ramp up. The supply amps will increase as the discharge. Well, we won't have any supply amps showing in a discharge mode because there is no amps coming out of it. But we can look at our battery and see that we've got a 10, right at 11 volt battery now. It's discharging at 4.5 amps. It's discharging at 50 watts, which is the maximum internal wattage or power that the GT500 can discharge at. Capacity out is listed, and the current fuel is listed. Now we can also go down and view each one of the individual cell voltages, and we can see that it is, you can either balance, choose to balance, or not balance on a discharge. That is up to the user. And then we rotate right back up to the supply status screen again. So I'm going to stop this discharge, and we will go back to our main menu and look at some more of our options. Now that the discharge has stopped, we can use the back button to back out of the discharge status, and we can now select to put the battery pack into storage. If we select store, then we can select at what amperage the charger will charge up at. If it is below storage level, we can choose what amperage it will discharge at to go down to storage level, and we can pick the voltage for the storage level. In this case, we've got it set to 3.85, which is considered 50% charge on lithium batteries. We can also go down to the advanced settings, and you could choose your termination, what C rating that you would want to terminate at. Back up a screen. We could go down to the discharge termination and determine or set what discharge voltage, the amperage would be when we terminate. We can choose to look at the discharge profile We can back out of that. We can go down to balance and choose to balance on a discharge or in a LiPo, or not to balance. Oftentimes on the discharge, we prefer to have that set to off. It makes the discharge run a little bit faster. We can back out of that, and then we could go in and set your timeout. I won't get into that right now, but we go back one screen and we're ready to start now that we've set everything the way that we want. It's checking the pack. Yes, it's a 3-cell lithium ready to charge or go into storage mode. And then the GT will determine whether to charge or discharge the battery pack to reach the storage level. In this case, it chooses to charge the batteries up to the storage level. And again, as any charge, we can watch all the statistics such as the wattage, the capacity in, the percentage of fuel level, the battery voltage. We can look at the internal resistance as it's charging, and we can look at the balancing as it's charged as well. Okay, then we can stop this by holding down the enter button or the back button for a second or two. We can press it one more time to back up to our initial start screen and then back to storage. We can move on down from the lithium menu to the cycle mode. Choose cycle, and then from the cycle mode you can set your discharge, your charge rate, your discharge rate, what voltage you're going to discharge down to. In this case, it's set as we did a few minutes ago to 3.5 volts. The start can be made, and we accept that. And I missed one thing I'd like to have showed you on that. I'm going to stop this charge, and I'm going to back up one screen, and I'm going to go to the advanced here because we're in a cycle mode. So let's go to advanced, and the cycle settings, if we select that, then we can choose whether the cycle ends with a charge or ends with a discharge. So that can be adjusted as how do you want that cycle phase to be ended. Now at the top where it says cycles, we can select that and tell it how many cycles we want to cycle the battery. So we've got a number from 1 up to 8 cycles that can be set on a battery pack. We're going to leave that set at 1, select that, and then we'll move back down to continue, which will take us right back to our main startup screen. So again, press the start button, wait for the check of the battery. When that verifies, select, and then your cycling starts. At the very top, you see it shows that you're in 1 of 1 cycle. If we had selected 2 cycles, it would have said 1 of 2 cycles. The one that gives you what chemistry you're using, what mode you're in this case charge, and how many amps per you're charging, the cell count, and the time that has been spent on this particular procedure or charge. Okay, let's go ahead and stop this charge and go on to something else. I'm going to go back button, back button, back button again, right back to our chemistry selection window. Okay, we're back to the main menu screen again, and I think from what you've seen, you can tell that no matter which one of these chemistries you choose, the steps that you go through of choosing a charge, a discharge, a cycle, or to monitor are pretty much the same no matter what type of chemistry that you have chosen. I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into the capabilities of the GT500 and how intuitive it is to set up and to use at the field without it being hooked to a laptop